Oh, these electronic devices. Some of us call it the e-tether or an electronic leash because you can't seem to get away from it. There's no escape. Work, home, school. But for our kids, it's much worse. Electronics, the addiction to them and the subsequent negative behaviors brings them out a different set of nicknames. Smack, Yam Yam, Dragon Roll, China White, LBJ. As we discuss what uncontrolled or unregulated use of phones, tablets, or any other electronic device that may find its way into the hands of your children, you'll understand why we, at Family on Trial, went there with the hardcore nicknames. Hey there, family. We're in the studio. I'm joined by my main man, Chris Dykeman. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. We're going to get into this topic today. I think it's very important that parents understand what is happening to their children when they have their heads buried in these multitude of devices, whether it be a phone or a tablet or the TV or the computer in the room or whatever it is. So we're going to do this today. You know, we got children, electronic devices, and antisocial behavior, and also addressing some mental health issues because that seems to be the buzz of the day. So, Chris, do me a favor. Tell me a little about yourself.
All right. I'm married 17 years. We have one son, Gabriel. He is 13. He'll be 14 this year. And I guess that's about the size of it.
Yeah. So, husband, father. You've 17 years, married. Son, 14.
He'll be 14 in December.
Well,
yeah.
there you go. So you have some you got some father credibility under your belt. All right. So we're gonna and with that we'll move forward because we both have teenage kids, and my daughter's just moved on to college, and before long your son will be making that same move or whatever he decides to do. In the meantime and in between time, we've got to be those fathers that they need in their lives. So you're part of that equation. So you mind if I tell you a story?
Please.
So Savannah, my wife, Chris knows my wife very well. We were out one morning, and I don't know why we were out that early. We're early birds, but we usually don't leave the house that early. And but we found ourselves out, and I don't know, maybe she convinced me to do some things I really absolutely do not like doing, like shopping. But I don't know. We found ourselves in a house made for serving pancakes, we'll just say. And we're there. It's pretty crowded. Morning, and I just had a hankering for some pancakes. Well, we're sitting there, and we're very near the door, which was semi-unfortunate, but gave me a very good advantage. In comes a family, and what made me think that they were a family was they walked through the door essentially the exact same way. I was like, okay, this crew's been together for a while, and what that family consisted of was a father and 4 boys of various ages. I would say the oldest was 15. Perhaps he was 16. Tall young man. And the youngest was probably around 6. Now, of course, the 2 children in between was somewhere between 6 and 16. Okay. They get to the table, which was right next to ours. Okay. And I'm just staring at them. Okay. I'm staring at them, and they don't notice I'm staring at them. Now, I have a very particular reason why I was staring at them. I wasn't just being some perv. I'm an observer of people, and so I just like people watching. I like to see what's going on around me, and they did not see me seeing them. Here's why. Each and every one of them had their heads buried in some sort of electronic device, including the dad. No one's talking. No one's interacting with each other. Dad's not interacting with the kids. The kids aren't interacting with the dad. Everybody's doing their own thing. There's electronic devices in their hands. They're sitting at the table. They're together, a very tight restaurant, and no one's interacting whatsoever. Struck me as odd. I couldn't take my eyes off of them. Now I could not because of them neglect speaking to my wife. So she was so fortunate. She got to listen to me rant on and on about how these people weren't paying attention to each other, and I'm just running this dad into the ground. I'm like, how are you not talking to your kids? I mean, what a powerful, teachable moment. I mean, this restaurant was crowded. The door was opening and closing and opening and closing. People coming in, people going out, people coming in, people going out. And not one of them picked up their heads. I'm like, what happens if evil walks through the door? What do? You just that caught off guard because you're so in your devices. And it hit me. It was like, this is the epitome of antisocial behavior.
Sure.
And that particular event gave me the idea for this show. The restaurant scene struck me especially because of how much the dad was doing the exact same thing. I say, well, the apples don't fall too far from the tree. And I'm sitting there like, I've been in a restaurant with my child, and and we don't even, we don't do electronic devices at the table. Anyway, we'll get into that later. But I enjoy the moments where I consider her a captive audience. She is, she's there, and I'm going to. It's time to teach. It's time to teach.
Sure.
And it's. Hey, sweetie, keep your head on a swivel. She hears me say that all the time, and she'll leave, she'll go somewhere. I'm like, head on a swivel, exit strategy. Head on the swivel, exit strategy. Those are my two things. Is head on the swivel, exit strategy. I love you. Be safe.
That's it.
And so now it's just ingrained in her because she's heard it for years. But in those moments in a restaurant, I'm like, well, did you see the guy with the whatever with the crutches? Oh, yeah. I saw him about 5 minutes ago. He came in through oh, okay, all right. So you're paying attention to your surroundings. No, especially these days. What do you think about that? I mean, are you dad? Are you dad in that scenario, or?
I am not dad in that scenario.
Okay.
I can say that for sure.
Okay.
I have seen that scenario, something similar to it, on more times than I could count, like you said, because it's everywhere.
Right.
It's everywhere. And I think it's terrible. I think you're losing out on time with your kids, for starters, and for second of all, I think the electronics in general, you don't need to be tied to this thing. Look at the life that's actually happening in front of you. Your computer's going to be there forever, what's going on around is not. I like to watch people too, so that's so I kind of come from a similar perspective of that, and I've been accused of something, and it's good because sometimes my son will sit there and he'll be like, you're staring at those people, and he's like, all right. And my wife's the same thing, okay. So sometimes I don't catch myself doing it, but that's okay because they're and he in particular is not looking at his computer. He's looking at me, and what's going on around there, and that's,
Boom.
So.
Boom. He's paying attention to what, at least he's paying attention to what dad's doing. If he's not paying attention to anything else, he's seeing dad.
Exactly.
But dad set an example about being aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they internalize that stuff.
For
These
sure.
are things we take for granted. That's not teaching. Well, yes, it is. And you have to take those moments. And what's at risk, ladies and gentlemen, is our children's mental health. We are failing them, and let's just be real. We're not here to sugarcoat. We're failing them mental health issues in our young adults and in our teens and tweens, and even we're getting down into the elementary kids now with mental health issues. And they weren't born with these issues. Some people like to call them chemical imbalances, but the data is now demonstrating. This is not just Daryl saying these things and pulling stuff from the ether. No, the data is showing why these children are having these issues. And for example, and I'll read a little bit from this. I came across some really interesting research, and we'll start here. I see teens who use electronic devices for more than 2 hours per day report significantly more mental health symptoms, increased psychological distress, and more suicidal ideation. More thoughts of suicide. These are teens, these are teenagers that use the devices 2 hours or more per day. Now there'll be some parents watching this, and they'll start counting up, and they won't know how high to go, but they'll know they're going past 2 when they're counting the hours that their teenagers are on these devices. And you have to start making some decisions. Well, 2 hours or more per day, the suicide ideation increases with each passing hour. Well, that's something that we need to plug into and wrap our minds around. Children using devices more than 2 hours per day have increased risk of depression, and this risk rises as screen time rises. And here's something that struck me: the lowest risk observed in children who use these devices are using these devices for less than 1 hour a day. The children that are thriving, the children who are not thinking about suicide, the children who are not depressed, they're using these devices an hour or less. Now that would be rough on a lot of parents.
That would be, and it's we give Gabe, from my own experience, we give him an hour a day. We let him have an hour a day. So that's interesting to hear that the hour seems to be the cusp there. Sometimes, if he's in the middle of a game and what have you, he's going to ask for more time. Sometimes we give it to him. So that's something I got to think about. Not hearing that, because that's not good stuff over an hour. And he has friends. I know they get like an hour a week. I know some of his friends who he wants to play his Xbox with him and what have you. But some of his friends, their parents are nope. They can play on weekends only for like an hour for the weekend or for whatever. So there are some parents out there that I know are doing that kind of thing, and even more strict than I am apparently, than Rebecca and I are. But there definitely need to be limitations, because that stuff that you're reading is just scary. It's not good stuff.
Yeah, and and to piggyback on that, to piggyback on the scariness, because this next observation is the one that gets me, and here it is. Studies have shown that children with ADHD symptoms spend more hours engaged in screen time activities than children without ADHD. As the amount of time spent with devices increases, so do the symptoms of ADHD. And ladies and gentlemen, take a moment right now to let you know that in the description will be the links to the studies. So once again, you can know that it's not Daryl saying this. This is the data. This is what has come out after years of studying these issues. ADHD. Kendall is 18 now. She's off to college. And I can think back to when she was in kindergarten. It seems like yesterday, because man, does time fly. But I remember this vividly. She was a ball of fire. Okay, high-spirited child. Disciplined because she lived in my house. Okay, but if you let her do what she wants to do, she will do it. And this was something I tried to convey to her kindergarten teacher. Well, we got called in one day, and Kendall was being what a child is. You know, she's playful, she's talkative, she's all over the place. So came in, kindergarten teacher sits us down. Hey, yeah, we have some concerns about Kendall. She's all over the place, and she's not really, she's not very. She just won't sit still. She's just kind of bouncing all over the place. I said, okay. I said, okay. What would you like us to do? Because I was most definitely have a conversation with her. Well, we cut to the chase, and she says, well, I think if you were to have her diagnosed, or if you took her to a doctor, she would come back with a diagnosis of ADHD. And ADHD is, I said, please stop. I know what ADHD is. I said, but let me ask you a question, because everything that you're telling me Kendall's exhibiting here in your classroom, she's not exhibiting at home. I said, so one or two things is happening. Either you're not telling the truth, or you don't know how to run your classroom. And I don't think you're lying, but I do think you don't know how to run your classroom, because I know how to run my house, and she's not doing any of what you're saying. That went back and forth for a while, and then she said, well, if she's going to continue to be disruptive, we're going to have to find other accommodations, or we're going to have to get her to have a diagnosis so we can, and I was like, if we can what? Drug her? So we can fill her full of whatever it is. Well, I think Ritalin was like I think it was basically new, during those days. So you're going to pump her up full of Ritalin? I said, that's not happening. I said, what's going to happen is we're going to go home. We're going to have a age-appropriate conversation with our daughter. Tell her what the expectations are, and you are going to actually be a teacher who runs her classroom. Well, we got no more calls and no more accusations of ADHD and no more talk about Ritalin or any other kind of drug. And that's just the way it is. Now, if I had not been that parent, she'd have been all hopped up on these drugs. And here's my point. My point is, how many children, especially today, are medicated for a condition created by parents who do not take the time to limit their children's screen time?
I would say quite a few. I'm sure I was gonna take that a step further and go, which I guess is a discussion for another day, about the automatic diagnosis of everybody wants to rely on, oh, there must be a condition, there must be this, because they don't, and let's pump them full of drugs because that's the answer to everything.
Always the answer, right?
But yeah, but that's off topic. So, but
it's completely on topic, because it's that knee-jerk reaction. Yeah. It's the easy thing to do. It's the shotgun approach. Yeah. It's like, well, let's just we have a hammer, and as the saying goes, when you have a hammer, everything's a nail.
It is. That's exactly right. And I feel like to the point that you were making, I think a lot of the parents, they automatically want to buy into that because they're not paying attention, or they don't want to pay attention. And unfortunately, that would probably, more than that has led, I would imagine, to way too many diagnoses and way too many kids that are getting treated for conditions that they don't have. I mean, I remember back in the day, and I'll date myself by saying, I remember when they added the H to ADHD. It used to be ADD before that.
I forgot about that. It was ADD.
Yeah, it was ADD way back when. And then it became the big thing. Oh, it's ADHD, and everybody had it. And it sounds like that's probably around the time where you were experiencing that with Kendall in kindergarten. Her teacher, like you said, the Ritalin was the whole, everybody's got ADHD.
The Holy Grail.
Yeah, exactly.
The Holy Grail of child behavior.
Yeah.
And they just sit there and kind of drool.
Yeah. Poor kids is right. And a lot of that, the reality is in the situations where they probably really where it is an issue, because I don't want to pretend that it's not an issue for some people. Of course it's an issue for some people. I feel like it was probably overdiagnosed is my point on that. But for those situations where it really is an issue, yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of that has to do with screen time. I mean, even back then there was no such thing as, cell phones, or even, a lot of the video games didn't have the hype they did now, but it was TV, screen time, sitting in front of the TV all day. And I have no doubt that contributed to some of the issues that were.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. TV is included in screen time.
Yeah.
Family on Trial is not just a saying, it's the truth. So help us help the world. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share. And come on over to familyontrial.org where the conversation continues. And thanks for bringing that up. I forgot about ADD. Man, goodness.
Yeah.
Man, I'm glad you brought up the point that this is not a conversation, and especially when it comes to ADHD specifically. It's not a conversation where this is some cookie cutter approach where this is going to apply to everybody 100%. There are situations where other matters must be undertaken to correct or to help enhance a more positive approach to living, a more positive approach to life. But by and large, just from my anecdotal experience and from having read these studies, a lot of it can go right back to just parents being parents. I don't doubt, and look, I don't doubt anybody loves their kids. Of course, when it comes to your kids, everybody's a hypocrite because everybody has the best kid on earth,
of course,
or the best children on earth. And I'm one of those hypocrites. I'm not immune. I embrace my hypocrisy. I don't mind if you're a hypocrite and you embrace it. If you're a hypocrite and you try to pretend like you're not one, I got a problem with you. But if you're a hypocrite, and I am a hypocrite, and I embrace it, then more power to you, because at least you're not delusional. You just you know what you are. Mm-hmm. So everybody's kid's the best. All right, but you can have the best kids and not spend the best time.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's pretty much what this study in particular, or actually these couple studies here that I've kind of glossed over here, has mentioned. Here's the other thing that arises when these kids become a buddy of mine at work used to call them e-tethers, the electronic tether. It's like a leash, and you're not even holding it. You think you're holding it, but it's holding you. Mm-hmm. But it has led to significant, in my opinion, significant communication issues. That in and of itself has led to the breakdown within families because of the inability to form sentences, use words correctly, pick up on nonverbal communication. And there's a lot of adults who are just as guilty of this as kids are, because you can't really teach what you don't know. But this is interesting. Research has shown that just 1 week of engagement in typical overnight camp activities, 1 week of overnight camping, okay, with no screen time, led to a significant improvement of children's ability to read nonverbal emotional cues.
That's extremely interesting, and it's not surprising, but did not know that for a fact, but absolutely makes perfect sense.
Parents, 1 week of overnight camping with no electronic devices, and you can almost reset your kids to the point to where they can pick up on nonverbal cues. Now, why is it important for a child to pick up on nonverbal cues? I mean, I can think of several reasons.
Yeah.
One, what do you teach your children? Stranger danger.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing. Sure.
And what happens when the stranger's not talking?
Yeah. Exactly.
Because we teach stranger danger. We say, okay, it's a stranger, young lady, young man. That's a stranger. We don't talk to strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Well, stranger's not talking.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What if the stranger's not talking?
Yeah.
How does a child pick up on the verbal cues, or the nonverbal cues, I should say, necessary to go, they, and we don't, and I'm gonna say this, but these are things we don't say to our children. That guy looks weird. Oh no, you're being judgy, you're being judgmental. Keeps my child away from a pedophile. They can judge all they want.
Exactly.
Judgment is a form of wisdom. Because you take knowledge and experience, and then you put those two things together, and there's children who will walk head first into a wall.
Yeah, if they're looking at their phone or whatever.
If they don't know what, like, the adults that are around them constantly, their mother, their father, aunts and cousins, or whoever, and they have a certain demeanor. And then you come across an adult whose demeanor is radically different from what you're accustomed to seeing. To them, that's a nonverbal cue that I need to watch out. Whether you teach a child that or not, cognitively, verbally, you don't have to teach that to your children. Have that innate ability.
Well, absolutely. And if where they're not going to get it, or where they're going to lose that ability, which ties into the study, I would imagine that you're just saying, well, you know what? If all they're looking at is an avatar on a screen all day, you're not picking up nonverbal cues from the electronic avatar. You're not understanding, because they all act the same. Okay, that's it. They're all the same figure. They're all doing the same things, depending on what buttons you press. And if that's all you know how to read, you're not learning anything on how to read them. You need to see actual people living actual lives, doing actual things, in order to be able to pick up on those nonverbal cues that you're talking about.
Here's the other thing when it comes to communication issues, and we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier about conflict within the family. I said, reduced quality family time leads directly to increased conflicts within the family unit. That, to me, that's a no duh. Moment. But you see it all the time. You see kids who, and this is one of the things, because of the ADHD type of reaction that kids receive, because they're constantly stimulated, and so they're constantly flipping and moving, and I play this game for 10 minutes and I get bored with it, and I switch to another game, and then I switch the game off, and I jump on my phone, and now I'm on social media, and I'm and now I'm swiping left, and now I'm swiping up, and now I like, and now I dislike, and let me look at my comments from my post, and it's this constant go, constant stimulation, and you end up producing a child that frustrates easily. And so the least little thing you say becomes super magnified in their minds. Because they're easily pushed. And then here comes the conflict. And if you're living in a house, you're the parents, and you're not really instilling discipline in your children. And then they're like consuming screen time for voraciously many hours a day. And then you wonder why Becky is screaming, "I hate you," and slamming the door, which would be another show on how to deal with that. Because that's a no-go in our house. But yeah, you almost, and I do, I was going to say almost, but I actually do. I actually feel for the kids. They don't stand a chance. They don't stand a chance because these children who are need to be constantly stimulated and easily frustrated become adults who need to be constantly stimulated and are easily frustrated. And then you move into the violent video games. You have, kids exposed to violent video games, TV shows, and movies tend to have more aggressive behaviors.
Yeah, that's a real shocker. Yeah, okay, a real shocker.
You don't say. Poor perspective taking abilities. Can't really see the big picture. Okay? And reduce moral development. What's right and what's wrong,
Yeah, none of that is surprising. The correlation is obvious, and if you spend more than a few seconds even thinking about it, you can pick. And again, like you said before, if you own your hypocrisy, it's not like we don't let Gabe play video games. We do. We monitor it as best as we can.
Yeah, Kendall plays video games.
And what have you. I played him growing up too, which, I guess you can make a case one way or the other, But the point being, the game that he likes to play all the time now, Fortnite, and there's had many predecessors, and I can't remember the names of them, but there are plenty of them. But the bottom line is, it's go out and kill as many people as you can kind of a game, and and whoever is still standing at the end wins. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to make a connection between being kind of detached from reality and the moral compass of, why is it okay to be in my game? All we do is kill everyone. That's the whole game.
Yeah.
And then when everybody's dead, I win.
Right.
Okay. Well, it seems like a pretty clear path to get to. It can be muddied to reality if you spend too much time doing that stuff, and if you as the parent aren't there to make sure that this, okay, that's a game, and you can play it for a limited time and what have you, and instilling actual values in them, okay, fine, you press a button on the screen and blow up whatever, but that's not how the real world works, and you instill actual values into them. But if you're not there doing that, it's kind of self-evident how a kid could just, if that's all they see and that's all they know all the time, and the more time they spend doing it, the more time it's going to be natural to them,
Oh man, you nailed it. It's the parent. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you should never play video games, or you should never play violent video games. Look, when Grand Theft Auto, that was it for me. GTA, and this is when it was still two-dimensional. It was just that little car going around, looked like a maze or whatever. It wasn't even that. It was great at the time, but now you see what it is now, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's like so much. It's simultaneously so much better and so much worse than when I was playing it. But you just nailed it. It's the balance. It's the parenting. It's saying, hey, son, hey, daughter, that's not real. And you've been on there long enough. Let's go outside. Let's go do something other than this. This is fine for a little while, but let's go make sure that you know what life really is. And we fall short. The point is, you don't have to be perfect. You have to be aware, and you have to care about your children enough to take a look at these studies, or at least just go over the stats and go, hey, I might need to tighten up my ship. I might need to tighten up my ship for the safety and protection of my kids.
Exactly.
Because if you don't protect them, you can't expect the world to do it. They say they will. Like all these people running around here talking about the village. Okay. I've lived in many villages, and there's people in them I don't want anywhere near my children.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's and That's me being judgy. I'm bringing judgment back. I'm bringing judgment back.
That's right.
Yeah, we're going to judge. We're going to assess, and we're going to make judgments. I teach my daughter, when people say don't judge me, those are the people you usually don't want to hang around.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Because they're the ones who want to do whatever they want to do when they want to do it, and you're not supposed to say one mumbling word.
Right.
And that's great until they're breaking the law or they're doing something thoroughly immoral or unethical. And now what?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're with them. When I was growing up, if there'd be folks who understand this. If your boy was holding, you was holding. Everybody was guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got to be. I'm bringing judgment back. I can be upset if you want to, but
It's called being a good parent.
you got to. No one else is going to do it. Maybe there will be somebody else who will do it, but you should anticipate no one else will. This is something I never really thought of. It's not only do you have an impaired higher level cognitive skill, your ability to reflect and use your imagination is greatly weakened.
Okay.
I was like, well, and I guess when would you have time for self-reflection when your phone is glued to your hand?
Oh, you wouldn't. If all you're doing is that, you wouldn't.
Yeah. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I got rid of TikTok. It's full of people who like the ability to reflect on what they're doing.
Right.
I swear 90% of those videos would not be on there.
That's true. Only 90?
I'm trying to be nice. Trying to be nice. But no, it's probably more than that. It's probably more than that. And these folks like self-reflection. I think maybe I'll do a show on that.
I guess you could kind of give them the other 10% because it's kind of self-reflection. If you're taking a picture of yourself with your phone, look at what I'm doing. So okay.
You just gave their argument. You just gave their response. They're angrily going, I do self-reflections all the time. And I don't mean selfies.
No, totally different things.
Totally different self-reflection. It's like analyzing one's thoughts and actions and trying to align them with, morality.
Yep.
And what is that?
They don't know.
No. And how could you? Once again, I feel sorry for the kids.
Yeah, for sure.
There's for the longest we've been beating up on millennials and Gen Z, and I'm like, why are we beating up on them? Beat up on the parents.
That's right.
Guys suck.
Yep.
Just be real about it.
Yep.
Oh, Daryl, you're a perfect parent. Nope. Can't be, because there are no perfect human beings. But there are things I do more often than not.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's what it comes down to. What you do more often than not.
And I think that's right. I mean, because like we both said, I mean, we'd be lying if we sat here and said I never once said, okay, yeah, go watch TV because I got something else to do. Okay, for an hour or whatever. I'd be lying if I said. And I'm sure most parents, if they're honest, have said, sure, they've done that.
Yeah.
But that's not the rule. Okay. Right. And I'm guilty of having done that on occasion. I wish I hadn't, but I had. And I think most people do, but it's not the norm, and it can't be. The TV can't be the babysitter. The TV in the video game can't be who raises your child, and it can't be every day. Park yourself in front of the TV while I live my life over here.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do we do? I mean, we can go back and forth, but I'm a practical man. I like practical things. And my wife, I tease her. She says, "What kind of gift would you like?" And I said, "I very seldom want anything. Just if you give me something, just make sure it's practical. Just make sure it's something I can use, and that will make me happy." So, okay, parents, let me give you something you can use. Tip number 1, let's reduce electronic use before bedtime. Screen time before bedtime leads to sleep deprivation. It's a, well, there are more kids reporting today that they have or suffer from insomnia. It's become prolific. I mean, it's just more and more each year. More children are reporting that they're are suffering from insomnia. They can't sleep. Mm-hmm. Well, the two things that came up was the between the radiation and the bluing effect. It stimulates it stimulates you, and to the point to where falling asleep is almost impossible for a while, and then you just end up tossing and turning, or you end up back on your device. Basically until you pass out. And parents, and there'll be parents out there who will totally relate to walking into their kids' room, the television is on, the phone is in their hand, but they're completely knocked out. Well, they passed out. Okay, they got to the point where they couldn't stay awake anymore. But insomnia increases, so reduce electronic use before bedtime. Avoid electronics in kids' bedrooms. Ooh, that's one that parents are like, oh, my child will mutiny if I did that. Oh my goodness, there'll be hell to pay if I did that. Well, decisions. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to the child's reaction. Spend less time overall on devices. Okay, that's no brainer. Take movement breaks. Get up, walk around, go outside, stretch. Have them do that. Why don't you do that and take them with you? Monitor your child's internet use and social media accounts. And this is interesting. It was for Kendall. She went, I think it was halfway through her junior year in high school before she got social media. And even then, she can only get one account. Okay, so she could pick one account, and I had to have full access to it. Period. And the only way she could get that was to make straight A's, or like 3 9 weeks in a row. 3 9 weeks in a row. I mean, not straight A's, honor roll. 3 9 weeks in a row, she had to make the honor roll, and then I would, let her download one social media app, and I had to have full control and access to it, because I can look at it on her phone, and I can look at it on my phone. I can pull her account up and look at it on my phone to see who's saying what. And I've flagged a few things. You will defriend this person. You will, oh, Daryl, you're over the top. Oh, it's too much. My child would never allow that. Blah, blah. Okay, all right. Again, we'll come back to that in a minute. But it's important for parents to monitor social media. And that should go without saying.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. I mean, Petey the pedophile is lurking. To catch what's that show? To catch a criminal or catch a
predator.
Predator, yes, there you go. Thank you. Catch a predator, and you got these guys on there thinking they're propositioning 13 and 14-year-old girls or boys.
Yeah.
Thinking they're, this stuff is real.
Absolutely. I mean, they thrive. They hide and they thrive in that environment.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Absolutely. And so those parents who would push back on, oh my goodness, I couldn't invade their privacy. Okay. But like I said, Petey the pedophile is happy you embrace your child's privacy. Yeah. Make sure during those developmental years, the young, impressionable, malleable, just now really wrapping their minds around life, like the toddlers, that playtime with the parents and socializing with other children around their age, and especially engaging in outdoor activities. Extremely helpful. Have your child avoid holding their devices too close to their heads. We kind of touched on radiation a little bit earlier. Their brains are still forming. And whether you're 2 years old or 12 or 17, you're not fully formed yet. And you don't want to introduce a bunch of radiation to a brain that's not fully formed itself, because there's just no way to combat a malformation. Once the brain is malformed, there's not a whole lot you can do for that. And for me, yeah, I'm a praying man. And perhaps prayer is about the only thing you can do at that point. Anything outside of that, you're pretty much dead in the water. Make sure kids have other interests and activities beyond screen time. Ballet was my daughter's thing. I don't even remember getting her a phone until middle school. And even then, most of the time it was a brick. I always call it a paperweight. She could call me, she can call her mom, and she was like one other person that, in case she couldn't get a hold of one of us. And that was pretty much it. While our other friends were like on this thing and that thing and whatever. Her phone was pretty much in her pocket because there wasn't a whole lot she could do with it. But she had other interests, and we made sure of that. Like I mentioned, ballet or bowling or whatever with drama. She was really big into that. Find out. That was one of the best things about being a parent. Not was one. I mean, it is one. One of the best things about being a parent is discovering what your children love and what they're good at, and actually sometimes what they're not good at, because that's just as instructive as finding out what they are good at, because you can help walk them through when you're not going to be the absolute best at everything in life, but that doesn't mean you should wallow in it. Pick yourself up and find something else to do and see if it works. Look, I'm not anti-technology. I'm just anti-letting technology raise your children.
Exactly.
Or at least mine. You raise your children the way you want to, but if you're watching this, it's because either you agree with me or something's just not really going the way you want it to go in your within your family, and you're looking for an answer, you're looking for responses, or you're just watching this to prepare to be some sort of troll. I don't really care. If that's your angle, but you care about your family, and you want to be that parent that's actually a parent, because I became a parent, nobody told me it was easy. So you get no instruction manual. Well, I actually kind of disagree with that. Well, no one in the hospital hands you a pamphlet to tell you how to be a parent. Okay, now my instruction manual is the Word of God, and and period, point blank. That rod and that staff, they comfort me. So, I don't want to get too deep into the discipline aspects of that rod and that staff, but these are things that people have completely forgotten about. Discipline is comforting to a child. Discipline demonstrates love. And then some people have perverted that or made it something that it should not be. But that doesn't mean you should just throw the baby out with the bathwater. You clean up the bathwater, you keep the baby. But we have to demonstrate to our kids that we actually love them, and we want to be with them, and we want them to be productive, and we don't want their minds to be mush, and we want them to be able to recognize a good situation and tell the difference between that one and a bad one. We want these things for our children, but it takes time, it takes effort, it takes a little bit of attention.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but that's where we are. We definitely here at Family on Trial are looking to help improve the lives of our children through improving the lives of parents by giving actionable things that can be done so you can go out and interact with the people that surround you, that you love the most, that love you the most, so they can be the most and go out into the community and spread that love around the world. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again real soon. Wondering how you can support Family on Trial? hit that like button, share, and subscribe. And then come on over to FamilyOnTrial.org where the conversation continues.